Here.
Peralez,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Cohen,
Here.
Davis.
Here. Thank you. All right. So this is the Transportation and Environment Committee, our first meeting of 2021. I want to welcome our new committee members, council members Foley and Cohen. Welcome. And we can get started. It looks like we don't have anything on consent today and nothing on the work plan review. So let's go to reports of committee. The item D1 is Electric Mobility Roadmap Implementation Report. Laura and Walter, are you the ones doing the presentation today?
Yes.
All right, take it away.
All right, I'm going to just start us off real fast and then pass it off to them. Afternoon committee, Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning Policy and Sustainability for the Department of Transportation. Really excited to be bringing you an update on the electric mobility roadmap. It's a core piece of bringing our transportation system into the Paris Accord compliance. There's a lot of work been going on that's really kind of pushing the envelope for the city and helping the cities across the nation kind of think through these things. I will say that there's going to be a big follow-up item soon at council to look at a particular legislative item around one-way car share, which we'll dabble on today, but we'll definitely be getting a lot more on in the future. Yeah, just really excited to bring this to you, and I'll pass it off to Laura and Walter to present you the rest of it.
Excuse me, I'm just getting the presentation in front of me. My apologies, I should have done this earlier.
Hi, this is Tony. I lost audio for a second. Am I supposed to be calling a vote?
No, you're good. We're just waiting for the presentation, which is coming up right now.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Zaczynski. Council members and staff, I appreciate your opportunity for Walter and I to present this update on the electric mobility roadmap. The council had accepted the electric mobility roadmap in January of last year, fulfilling one of its directives, an electric vehicle strategy. The roadmap strategies to reduce vehicle-related greenhouse gas emissions were organized around four major themes: to increase the number and distribution of electric vehicle chargers across the city, to convert the city's fleet and encourage other fleet owners to do the same, to increase the number of people across income levels who own electric vehicles, and to expand access to electric transportation by expanding shared electric options. When it accepted the roadmap, the council directed staff to take 6 actions. 2, offer financial counseling workshops to help lower income residents purchase electric vehicles. Staff conducted several such workshops last year. To develop an electric car share pilot program in an affordable housing development. In the fall of last year, DOT provided a letter of support to First Community Housing and Envoy, a car share company, for a grant that would place electric shared cars in several of First Community's San Jose developments. A decision on that grant program should be announced soon. To create an electric bus demonstration project. Last year, San Jose Clean Energy provided a letter of support to Prospect Silicon Valley for a grant application they made with the Franklin, McKinley, and Campbell Union school districts to electrify the district school buses. A decision on that grant is also expected shortly. To update the city's green fleet policy and replacement plan, Public Works plans to return to council with a proposed green fleet policy in spring of this year. To return to city council with an ordinance authorizing a one-way vehicle sharing program. DOT plans to present that order to council next month. And to identify incentives for EV car sharing. Incentives were incorporated into the proposed one-way vehicle sharing program. What follows is a bit more details on these and several other roadmap initiatives. publicly available chargers in the city is growing. As a result of Public Works' partnership with PG&E, the utility will be installing 112 charging ports at 4 city facilities: Happy Hollow Zoo, San Jose's Police Headquarters, Mayberry Service Yard, and the South Service Yard. All the charges will be available to the city's fleet vehicles and employees. The public will have access to the 40 ports at Happy Hollow Zoo. Silicon Valley's Cal EVIP program will have an even bigger impact on charging in the city. The program is in the process of finalizing its awards, but 11 million of San Jose's $14 million fund has been tentatively awarded. 7 million for fast chargers and 4 million for level 2 chargers. More than a quarter of these funds will be for projects in disadvantaged and low-income communities. The location of the projects have not yet been made public. The remaining 3 million in San Jose's fund will be released in July. Will allow more San Jose projects currently on the wait list to move forward. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Walter Lynn in Public Works to talk about greening the city's fleet.
Thank you so much, Laura, and good afternoon, Council Member and Chair Davis and members of the T&E Committee. I am Walter Lynn. I am a Deputy Director in the Public Works Department. I manage the Fleet, Facilities, and Radio Communications divisions. I'll be sharing with you a bit in terms of the city's current fleet inventory, as well as the current progress and future outlook for our conversion to all electric vehicles. With this slide, we're showing a chart of the city's current inventory. We have just under 2,500 pieces of equipment, of which there's a mixture of different types and different fueling sources for these vehicles. As you can see in the upper right, darker red portion, our fully electric fleet equate to 268 vehicles, about 11% of our overall fleet. The yellow shaded area is a hybrid section of our fleet, where it's electric as well as unleaded gasoline. That is also another 268 vehicles, or another just about 11%. Combining those two, we are just under 22% of our fleet that is either fully electric or partially electric. We do have other alternative fueled vehicles within our fleet, whether they're with biofuels, renewable diesel, or propane. As you can see also, about 50% of our fleet is still unleaded. That is based on existing fleets, but our view and our commitment to go electric first with any types of future replacements were technically feasible. Laura, if we can move to the next slide. For this year's replacement plan, of the 2,500 vehicles and the 268 that are already currently fully electric, we do have just about 2,216 vehicles that are not electric at this point. For this current fiscal year, we do have plans to convert 19 of those remaining vehicles. Our annual budget for this fiscal year is just under 10.3 million, which 692,000 has been dedicated to convert these 19 fleet vehicles. The reason why we're only converting 19 is because these are on the schedule for replacement for this year, as well as the technical feasibility of changing these vehicles. Right now, they are currently on the market. There are proven technologies. There are other vehicles that are either heavier duty or there is not a standard out in the marketplace as yet, where the city would feel comfortable in making large purchases without having more experience, more familiarity of having those being made available in the market. Laura, next slide, please. For our future conversion strategy, we are looking at the different vehicle types on the left column. After converting the 19 vehicle replacements this year with all electric, we will still have 2,197 vehicles left of the varying categories: light duty sedans and SUVs, then light duty trucks and vans, the medium duty vehicles, and the off-road and heavy duty vehicles. We've already equated based on what is available out in the marketplace. It would be just about $13.5 million to convert our remaining light duty fleets. We do not have an allocation as yet set aside for that replacement to all electric. That is something that we'll be working with the budget office to determine what is feasible to change and how quickly we could do so within the next several years. The other categories, as mentioned before, the light duty trucks, the medium duty, and the heavy duty or off-road, we, again, within the city, we are following different types of technologies as they emerge. We may not be ready as yet to make larger purchases, only because they are not available on the marketplace. However, we are testing out some vehicles, for example, the larger electric buses at the airport, The airport is looking at buying 6 more electric buses within their fleet this current year as well. But as technologies continue to get better and they emerge and become more available in the marketplace, the city will be looking at trying to integrate more and replacing more within our fleet at those times. With that, I will give it back to Laura to complete the presentation.
The third area of focus I mentioned earlier in the roadmap is expanding electric vehicle ownership. The city launched 2 innovative programs in 2020 to expand EV ownership. Last summer, DOT and San Jose Clean Energy launched the city's first electric vehicle discount program in partnership with five auto dealerships: Capital Chevrolet, Capital Hyundai, Capital Kia, Premier Nissan of San Jose, and Stevens Creek Kia. The dealerships offer discounts of up to $3,000 on 7 electric vehicle models. Customers were encouraged to combine these discounts with local, state, and federal incentives for $13,000 to $17,000 in additional savings. 200 people signed up for the program. The city does not have good data on the number of electric vehicles sold to the program, however. We were able to confirm the purchase of 8 vehicles through an online survey, but we know that more were purchased than were captured in the survey. The dealerships have said they would like to repeat the program as they believe the effort stimulated EV sales during COVID-19. With financial support from American Cities Climate Challenge last summer, DOT, San Jose Clean Energy, and Peninsula Family Service launched Drive Forward, an electric vehicle financial counseling program. The program is designed to help low and moderate income San Jose residents improve their finances and, if they were interested, to buy a new or used electric vehicle. The team held 4 90-minute virtual workshops in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, accessible online and by phone. Peninsula Family Service also provided free one-on-one financial counseling sessions by phone or by Zoom. The workshops were attended by 65 people. 43 took advantage of the one-on-one financial counseling sessions, and 44 participated in a follow-up survey. Of those, 40% said they were somewhat likely or very likely to purchase an electric vehicle. Staff is seeking funding to offer more Drive Forward workshops in 2021. The last section of the roadmap is on shared vehicle options. Next month, staff will be bringing a proposal to council for a one-way shared vehicle program. 2 companies have expressed interest in expanding to San Jose: Revel, an electric moped sharing company, and Gig Car Share, which primarily uses hybrid electric vehicles. Staff conducted extensive community engagement around this proposal last year, primarily in the greater downtown area. This is the geographic area where both companies expressed an interest in initially launching their programs. Response was very positive in some corners and wary, if not negative, in some others, primarily in residential permit parking neighborhoods and business districts where parking is a major concern. Staff is developing a number of recommendations to seek to maximize the value of the service to the community while addressing residents' concerns. The proposals include authorizing the DOT director to issue permits allowing one-way vehicles to park in metered and otherwise restricted areas for up to 72 hours. However, there would be some conditions. Operators would be unable to obtain a permit to park in a regional permit parking zone unless that neighborhood opts into the program. Operators must pay the city meter fee for the time their vehicles are parked at city meters. And the director would also be authorized to establish the terms and conditions for the permit, including the ability to set lower maximum times to develop mutually beneficial terms for the community or business district and the operator. More details on the proposed program will be presented to the council in March. This is the end of our presentation. However, Walter and the panelists and I are happy to answer any questions. We have another person, DOT Emily Breslin, available to speak, Dave Mesa from Public Works, and Zach Struick from San Jose Clean Energy.
Thank you. Let's hear from the public first, please. Looks like Paul Soto.
Sí se puede, first of all. Second of all is that with regard to the issues of equity and the equity lens to be applied to this particular issue, there needs to be detailed, articulated data of, number one, who in what income bracket, what is going to be the demographic of the people that are going to have immediate access to these types of services. They're going to be people with electric cars, and only people with electric cars can afford those electric cars. We're talking the Teslas, we're talking the Lexuses. You know, these are the populations that we're talking about. So basically what they're doing is they're getting access to city resources in order to create an infrastructure to support the elite. Okay, I don't care if you call it green. I don't care what kind of euphemistic terms you put on it. What we're talking about here, and it's really offensive for District 6 to be in a position to continually determine the context in which I function and my descendants function. You know, I think with what happened with the Fallon statue today, I think is a vindication. It is a vindication of the fact that that District 6, has constantly determined the context in which my ancestors live. And it's tired, ya basta, no more. That's not going to happen anymore. So what I would like is a detailed analysis of the demographics that are going to immediately be the beneficiaries of this infrastructure that these people are asking the city to access. Yes, there's going to be government grant money. There's going to be, I hear all that. I don't want this conversation to get convoluted with those details. I want detailed analysis of the immediate demographic that is going to be able to access all of these services as soon as they are put in place. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands up, so we'll go to my colleagues. Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. I had some questions. First, I wanted to start with how the governor's $1.5 billion plan, granted it's a proposal right now, but how does that impact us? In particular, I'm looking at a couple of things. One is, I think it's kind of ill-timed given how much people are suffering right now, but there's an equity portion in terms of helping people get electric cars, because 72% of recipients of the state's rebates had a household income of over $100,000. And I believe the governor's trying to change that and make that more affordable to folks. The other sort of aspect of the governor's plan that I'm curious about on what it means for us, again, particularly from an equity standpoint, is that the governor is looking for California to ramp up construction of charging stations, both on state, I'm assuming the state infrastructure, but also for cities. So what does that mean for us?
I'd like to make a point about the overall topic, and then I'll let Laura speak to the specifics there. So as we're doing our work in DOT, the equity issue is forefront and center. You know, it's absolutely right. You know, Tesla dominates the EV market right now, and the benefits of owning EVs are flowing to folks who have a high income at the moment. And we are specifically trying to bend that curve. So we're specifically focusing on resources that can bring charging stations to communities that have trouble accessing them. Right? We're specifically looking at policies to see how we can get multifamily areas, multifamily unit complexes, whether it be in the complex or near it, to get the benefit of the public money. So I think it's really important to say that. And I think that another thing just to think about in terms of what the overall market for EVs is, you may have seen last week, GM has said they will not be making anything but EVs come a mere 14 years from now. And so I think the need for us to establish, you know, look, a lot of the higher income folks can install their own chargers at home, and they've gotten a lot of the benefit of the program so far, and there's no denying that, that's right. But we're very much focused on figuring out how to push these resources into exactly the communities and housing areas that really need them, because you know, everything that was said by the public commenter, as well as Maya, your points are exactly right. And for us to change that takes a lot of work, and we're very, very focused on that. And I'll leave the details to Laura.
Thank you. I would just echo that. You're absolutely right that equity has to be front and foremost in us doing this work. Otherwise, we're just allowing people who have the means to continue to have the means to buy electric vehicles, which is why we were very excited about the direction by council to have us do these electric vehicle workshops. And with the support of the American Climate Challenge, we were able to pay Peninsula Family Service to work with us to do these workshops for low and moderate income families. And we were really pleased to see that their response was very interested in purchasing electric vehicles. What we're noticing now is that a lot of those folks have not actually moved to the step of actually purchasing. So we're realizing more is needed, and that's what we're trying to figure out now. What's the next step? How can we provide services that help? And actually, San Jose Clean Energy is working with us on this, developing that concept of an ambassador program that would help people make the next step after the workshop. Once I know I'm eligible and I know what programs I can apply for, how do I actually fill out the form? And how can we help people get from the beginning to the end? And the governor's interest in providing more incentives available, particularly for folks who are lower income, is really welcome news, because there's a big gap between the cost of the cars and people can afford. That's another thing that we're looking at, trying to figure out how do we expand the used EV market in San Jose, so that people who do want to get an electric vehicle but can't afford a new car can actually get into reliable, fairly new electric vehicle that will reduce their costs of maintaining and operating their vehicle. So we know this is not the whole piece, but these are the things we've started to learn and try to move the needle, but a lot more is needed.
Thank you. Thank you. And so there are a few things. So one of them, one of my questions about the workshops, I mean, I can tell you in my district, there's a lot of hard hit families, right? And so there's a lot of economic uncertainty. The folks that are able to work are taking care of other folks in the family that are not able to work right now. And so, I mean, these workshops were held between August and October. So I'm assuming a lot of the families, especially if they were very low income up to moderate income, are dealing with a lot of economic uncertainty. Did you ask them, is that why aren't you buying? And I can tell you they need cash and an economic certainty would go a long way. And I think that's part of what the governor's trying to solve. But have we asked them that?
I'm looking to see if Emily Breslin is on the call with us, because she actually had one-on-one conversations with the residents who participated. I don't see her. So I can't speak directly, but I can check with her. I know they had follow-up conversations with all the people who participated that they could reach to find out what they valued about it and what could be better. And so I can ask her if she has any insight into what they said that the obstacles were.
Thank you. And if you could send that to me offline, I'm interested in helping. And also, if you could send me the specifics of the ambassador program. I will also suggest a couple of things. Number one is under the home installation help, particularly in East San Jose, those are some of the most overcrowded census tracts in the city. So if you pull up a map that has census tracts of San Jose, the west is very light and east is like gray to black, right? Because there's so much overcrowding. That's not all multifamily dwellings. A lot of that is individual homes that have different rooms, garages, and sheds rented out to folks. Or that might be, in particular, you can look and see a single family home, but there might be 12 to 15 folks living in there who are related, right? It's just family and extended family. And so one of the things that we've learned with digital inclusion is there was a big stumbling block in getting folks signed up for broadband because of the unusual living arrangements and the lack of having formal leases in these types of living situations. And so that's a concern for me. I just wanted to red flag that in looking at charging stations. Who is that going to be? You know, how can we make that available for families that may have, you know, a lot of cars in that one household, right? And in many neighborhoods, you can see the cars piled up in the front lawn and getting very creative with parking solutions. And so I just wanted to red flag that. Two, in talking about the used market, one of the things, you know, a lot of folks, particularly in my district, do is work on their own cars, right? Or go to a neighbor or family member who can fix your car for you. You just go buy the part and, you know, change your own brakes or whatever, right? And so on an electric car, or even any modern car, that becomes, but particularly on an electric car, that becomes a much more complicated thing. I certainly wouldn't do it. I'd be afraid to. So I think, you know, talking about the maintenance, educating people on the maintenance of, particularly on a used electric vehicle, what does that look like? I think there are a lot of concerns about that. And so being able to address that would be really helpful. And so I will leave it at that. I do want to have more conversations about the sites, the charging station sites in East San Jose. I believe Councilmember Carrasco and my office had sent some addresses I have COVID brain, so I think it was last year or the end of 2019. I can't remember. But when we had these discussions, we sent some addresses of big shopping centers. And I believe that we had also, my office had also sent some information about just kind of big apartment complexes and maybe talking with the owners or the property management companies for some of these big developments as a way for them to offer this as an amenity, but really start to build that infrastructure. So I'll just leave it right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I want to thank you for the effort of on educating people about the opportunities for buying electric vehicles. I think a lot of these things are, you know, because it's new technology, a lot of people are uncomfortable and don't understand some of the benefits and the fact that actually, you know, that there are, in reality, cost savings to be had by buying electric vehicles. And so, you know, what we're talking about now with building out this infrastructure is building out the future so that when people are ready to buy their electric vehicles, there will be that infrastructure in place for them across the city. And so this is an exciting sort of plan preparation for the future. And I'm glad that Ramsey's mentioned GM. I was going to mention that. I mean, the announcement last week from GM was a huge announcement. Basically, is signaling the fact that there really will be no option for new cars other than to buy electric vehicles in the future. And so our city being ahead of the curve and having an infrastructure across the city for that eventuality, it is a great thing. We don't want to be behind and then scrambling to build that infrastructure when there is no other option other than to buy electric vehicles. And so those educational classes are important, and you know, people may not be ready to buy their car now, but what we want them to understand is that when they are ready to buy their next vehicle, that there's financial assistance available for them that make it so that not only is it feasible, but it actually in the long run is cheaper to buy an electric vehicle because you don't have the cost of fueling the vehicle, but actually, you know, to one of Councilmember Esparza's points, there's almost no maintenance cost to having an electric vehicle. So people won't be having to do the oil changes in their front yard because there are no oil changes to do. There's very little maintenance cost. So if people learn that, there are major financial benefits to having electric vehicles that people aren't even aware of. So I think that we can do a lot through that education program. One of my questions about that infrastructure that I'd like to see maybe tracked in the future is how our utilization of that charging infrastructure is. Can we see some maybe data on how those charging stations are being used in various locations across the city. And maybe with time, is there a growth in utilization? For example, I noticed that, you know, there was in the supporting material list of locations where, for example, VW put in the charging stations. And I know in one of the shopping centers in D4, I'd seen a year ago, those charging stations were put in. I've never seen a vehicle at any one of them, but I know in other places across the city, there some of the times the charging stations are completely full. So I'm curious as to where they're being used, where they're not, you know, what kind of traffic there is for those, and what kind of you know, need there is for growth in those various parts of the city in that infrastructure. My other question now is also about the city fleet. So on that slide, you talked about the replacement of the city fleet. The city has a budget of an allocation of $10.3 million to replace vehicles. And it wasn't clear to me, that's a total replacement budget, or that's just an EV replacement budget? And it sounds like this year your plan is to spend $692,000 of that budget on 19 vehicles. Does that mean the rest of that budget's getting carried over to future years? Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yes, Council Member and Vice Chair Cohen, Walter Lynn with Public Works. I can help answer that question. Yeah, the $10.3 million roughly that's been allocated, it's just for this fiscal year. That is a combination of general fund as well as special fund dollars for various fleet replacements. The larger of that, I believe it's 8.9 million, is from special funding. And that can include police vehicles, the heavier duty fire apparatuses, those that may not have electric equivalents at this time. In going through the process and looking at all of the vehicles that are due for replacement this year, 19 of those was designated as feasible, and hence the $692,000 allocation. That is just for the one current fiscal year in fiscal year 2021. As future years come about, there is a different allocation for general funded fleets and special funded fleet. And then we get the requests from the different departments in terms of what is needing for replacement. Then our team goes through the evaluation, what is a feasible and equivalent electric vehicle that can be replaced, and then we go through the procurement process at that point. But yes, it's the total allocation and just the subset, only because this is what's available in the marketplace at this point.
So there are other vehicles then being replaced because they're due for replacement that are not being replaced with electric vehicles. That's kind of what I'm understanding.
That's correct. Either not because it's not up to our standard, or not up to a availability within the marketplace.
Is there an opportunity to hold off on some of those because we know that there might be opportunities coming soon? I mean, my interest is in, you know, trying to get as many of them converted to electric as soon as possible. I'm just wondering, is there a way to reallocate that funding to try to accelerate the conversion in some instances and hold off in others? I understand when we're at end of life on some vehicles. I'm just concerned about replacing with new vehicles that then delay, because now we wait till the end of the life of those vehicles, and 20 years out, we still have you know, the gas vehicles because we haven't done the replacement.
Yes, very good point, Councilmember Cohen. So yes, we're approaching that in two different prongs. The first prong is for those vehicles that are end of life and maybe are not safe to keep in our fleets. We are doing our very best to determine what's available and converting those to electric if available. If it can wait, we will definitely have that as a consideration until more of the marketplace makes it feasible for us to make those purchases. In parallel, we are working on two different policies. One is the green fleet policy. The other is the vehicle replacement policy. The green fleet is a policy adjustment and amendment that we're making where it indicates we are looking at any types of vehicles where we can go electric first. Of all options, we're looking at fully electric at first. That's something that even though the policy itself hasn't been adjusted, we are already committing ourselves, and that's our current practice. For the vehicle replacement policy, there is criteria where certain vehicles must meet a certain age or certain mileage before it's considered for replacement. The adjustments that we're making to that policy is to be a little bit more flexible, having either a lesser amount of years or a lesser amount of mileage before it can be considered for replacement. And that'll help us speed greening the fleet in that fashion as well. But yes, we're looking at a couple of different approaches to quicken the process and get more fleet to be green.
Okay, I appreciate that, because we know that you know the the clean air benefits, the climate benefits. There's a lot of benefits to greening that fleet, even if there's, we have to move forward some of those replacements. And I think that would be important for us as a city to consider that. Okay. I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple questions on the Drive Electric San Jose program. I myself, just about 3-4 years ago, actually, finally gave up my pickup truck and got a hybrid Prius, and I got a used one. It was a couple years old, and was able to get it for under $20,000, and certainly the lowest price I could find for that particular type of vehicle, at least in that time frame. And so I was looking at what was offered here, and just looking at the numbers of individuals that we had participate in the program, but then ultimately only a few where we could confirm actually purchased one. And looking at the prices of the vehicles that were part of the program, the lowest one was before any discounts was $31,140. That was for the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid electric. And then going up as high as $39,090 for the Kia Niro all-electric vehicle. And the average cost was around $35,000. And after the sales price and the $3,000 program discount, and you still, after taxes and fees, we're looking at $31,000. And then if you're financing it, right, you're paying a little bit more, right, over time. And depending on somebody's down payment, their payments are still going to be potentially around $550, $450 maybe dollars for 60 months. And so I think the cost of electric vehicles has certainly been going down over the years, but even at that dollar amount, it puts a lot of people out of the market, and it put even me, right, when I was out looking out of the market specifically for a new vehicle. And hence that's why I ended up getting a used one, which still has it's my Prius hybrid is still running very well. And so I'm curious, a couple of things. Number one, which was on the promotion of it, on maybe demographics that we were targeting, or maybe demographics that we hit, if we have those numbers. I know we have the total number of individuals, and you did mention about the low income kind of status, but just curious on how we promoted that, and then what some of the demographics look like.
Yeah, unfortunately, excuse me, my colleague who ran the program was on the call with me, and I can follow up with more details. What I do recall is that we did promotion not to our own employees, but also to Santa Clara County's employees, and we also partnered with Kaiser Permanente, and I think there were a few other large employers we promoted the program to. We knew, because there's a new cars, that a lot of people will be priced out of the market, even with the discounts that were available. So we were trying to see if we could move the bracket down a little bit to people who might have been interested in a new car, but a lower end cost, but were interested in the EV, that maybe with these discounts, we could bring it into the price range that they could afford. We don't unfortunately have good data, but we are very encouraged by the fact that the dealers felt that they did get more people coming in the door interested in EVs before. And so our hope is that we would be able to, with the used market and more promotion, to be able to serve the market of those who are interested in a used car at a price that's more affordable. And then if we can get the used EV market moving here, that we can expand much more deeply into markets of people who just can't buy a used car. Even if it's slightly discounted, it's still way out of their price range.
Yeah, I think certainly that would be of interest to me on looking at that opportunity, expanding that as well. How did we come to the selection of who it was that we worked with to do outreach to, and why wasn't there necessarily more other organizations that we partnered with?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I know that Emily reached out to a number of employers. It was the ones who were interested in working with us that we partnered with. But I can get her the full list of who we partnered with and who we tried to partner with.
Okay. Yeah, and certainly if we continue something, I'd like to see how we make it more affordable for our working lower income families, especially now, right, in this post-pandemic economy. Um, how were the customers that wanted to participate able to get access to these grants? Was there a grant assistance kind of through that, or how did that work for them?
Again, I don't have the details on that. I know we provided information to the dealers. Actually, Emily organized a training program for the dealers in all of these dealerships. At least one people from all the dealerships that were interested in participating. Emily's joining us, great. Where she walked them through a lot of the background information about electric vehicles and then provided them information that they could then pass on to their clients or potential clients. Emily, do you want to jump in here? Did you?
Was it up to the dealers then to I guess mention the program if somebody didn't know about it, and then if they did know about it, you're saying there wasn't any helpline or assistance, it was they had to work with the dealer and the dealer would have had to help them through it?
Emily, did you hear that question?
I'm sorry, I just joined. If I feel free to ask the question again. I can answer it as best I can. Sorry, I'm joining late.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for jumping in. So the question was in regards to maybe assistance on the grant. I was asking how were customers able to get access to those grants? And Laura was mentioning that the dealers were informed of obviously the grant, but I was just kind of curious if a customer, say that we had partnered with their organization, knew about it and they came forward, was it only the dealer that they were working with for this, or was there some other sort of grant assistance to ensure that they could get that grant?
Yeah, so there were two separate programs over the summer that we were overseeing. One was Drive Electric and the second was Drive Forward. I think Laura probably reviewed both of them. So for the Drive Forward program, we were working with or targeting low-income households in San Jose, and working with a nonprofit called Peninsula Family Service, based out of the Peninsula. And they assisted about 70 or so individuals as part of our workshop programs, the Drive Forward workshop programs. One, to kind of just review EV 101, kind of know how, where to charge, what kind of electric vehicles are on the market today, et cetera. And then the second piece of that and a big focus of those workshops was helping those individuals to navigate grants and incentives that are available locally and at the state level as well. So so it was about 70 workshop participants, and we had 200 or so people sign up. And then about 42 individuals did one-on-one financial counseling following those workshops alongside Peninsula Family Service. So we had about 2 staff on hand following the workshops to help individuals who were kind of further interested in getting help and navigating those grants and incentives, because they can be quite tricky to figure out on your own. So, and then in terms of the Drive Electric program, in which we were partnering with the 5 dealerships, franchise dealerships, we did training with them, and it was kind of, there was enough overlap between the 2 programs that many of the people who participated in the workshops and got more information about grants and incentives then went and availed of the discounts that were available through the 5 participating dealerships. And then at that point had more information about the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project grant or the Clean Vehicle Assistance grant, all of these grants that are available. So that's my probably long-winded answer.
No, that helped. Thank you. And last question is in regards to trade-ins. Was there any opportunity for trade-in, especially since, right, it's one of our goals is to get our fuel-dependent cars off the street?
That wasn't part of our program in terms of us funding any extra, like the Cash for Clunkers program under the Obama era push for that. We weren't resourced at that level for this, right? But we, they could still turn their cars in and get their normal buyback, but that would obviously just create a second used market for that car.
And Ramses, I'll just add, we actually had one confirmed individual through the Drive Forward workshop who ultimately applied for the Clean Cars for All program, which is the cash for clunkers. So they had a model older than 2005, and they were actually just in the last 2 weeks pulled off of the wait list for Clean Cars for All, and should hopefully be getting a $9,500 grant. So that was just kind of one confirmed instance of an individual taking advantage of the BACNED program.
Okay, thank you. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley?
Great, thank you. And thank you for the presentation. Many of my questions have been asked already, but I did want to comment on a couple of things. And that is the educational component as it relates to electric vehicles. Electric vehicles in the long run can be less expensive, as Councilmember Cohen mentioned, to operate because you're not changing oil, you're not changing air filters, things like that. And you're not stopping at a gas station and filling up every time you need to fill up your gas, but you do need access to electricity. And to Councilmember Esparza's point, if you don't live in a single family home or an apartment that has EV stations, getting access to those charging stations is difficult, and it can be expensive if you're paying to some of these providers of power are not cheap. So we need to make sure that we're educating the public on the use and ease of an EV vehicle, because it is different. It's very different to drive an electric vehicle than it is to drive a gas-powered automobile. The sound's different, the feel's different, everything's different about it, but the maintenance is certainly so much better and such an improvement. And of course, it's good for the environment. But if we're all going electric, can our power grid hold? Does it have the capabilities of providing dependable charging stations across the city for all of our electric vehicles? That's one thing to consider as we go in this direction. I completely support going in this direction, but just something to be thoughtful for. A couple of questions about the actual charging stations themselves. I noticed the only public one that we're talking about is Happy Hollow. The rest that were listed in the background were for our employees. What consideration do we have? I know Councilmember Esparza mentioned some locations of public locations, but what efforts are we looking to expand our capabilities for charging stations outside of just Happy Hollow for the public?
So I'll make a general comment on that and let Laura have any details in terms of where we're going with specific things. But, you know, stepping kind of really high up, right? The auto market is changing, and the auto market is changing at this point on its own. And we're playing kind of guidance, bumpers a little bit to that market as much as we can to drive the market so that it can benefit folks who can't afford Teslas and Lexus versions of these kinds of cars as soon as possible, right? And with that being said, our ability to be the supplier of chargers of note will never be the provider of these things en masse, right? We were an early adopters help in terms of getting the technology out on the ground and getting them out there, looking at libraries, looking at community centers, all of that kind of thing. And while we are trying to supply as many as we can under our own power and finances, I think that a lot of what we're trying to do is coax and guide and help the private sector take on that role in a robust way, right? So making sure that these stations are coming in and that, like, the EV America through the Volkswagen settlement, things like that are really accelerating the amount of stations. We're trying to coax those stations into the right places through the powers we have. So just want to make sure that's kind of clear and kind of like get our heads in the right place, because our ability to shape this multi-billion-dollar market or multi-trillion-dollar market is only so much, right? And so just wanted to say that. And then Laura, you probably have some more thoughts in terms of where the stations are going.
One thing I can say from the Cal EVIP program, that's where I think we'll see a much bigger change, because it's a large amount of money. The city helped to make that fund possible along with the state to get a lot more chargers in the city, both the fast chargers and level 2 chargers. We don't know the distribution of them, but we know already that more than a quarter of them quarter of the funding is going to be for disadvantaged neighborhoods. That means it's going to be more widely distributed. And all of those chargers need to be accessible to the public. So that will make a huge impact. Of course, it's not going to solve the entire problem, but it does go a big chunk of the way there. We also have EVgo and Electrify America, who are continuing to install chargers in the city. I mentioned in the memo the several clusters that Electrify America, which is VW, is the arm of VW that's settling the emissions scandal. They've made San Jose one of the metropolitan areas that they've been focusing on for a number of years, and there's no decision to end that. So we anticipate that Electrify America will be putting in more fast chargers in the city as well. And they've also complemented, and this is a compliment to our planning staff, the way that the city's planning staff has accelerated that process, that they have used the city as an example to other cities in the state.
Great, thank you. And through policy last year, and I think the year before, we implemented new construction of multifamily units to have more charging stations, and commercial properties for construction to have more EV stations. So that will help new construction, but it doesn't help existing construction. So I appreciate all of that. There was also some background information about investigating the possibility of private operators on public property. Is there, that seems like a good idea, but is there going to be a financial benefit to the city for that? What do you anticipate, or what's the status of that?
I'll introduce this and I'll also let Emily step forward. And what we're trying to do, back to Ramses's point, and realize that we can't solve the problem, but what we can do is use our properties strategically where the market is not going, and perhaps we have a community center or a library where we could locate a charger that could make a huge difference to the neighborhood around that location. And Emily's going to be working with other departments who also have managed facilities, not just DOT, to figure out what those locations are, where it would be appropriate potentially to put, or to allow somebody else to put a charger in there, and under what conditions we would allow that to happen. What we'd charge, if we would be willing to reduce the amount of money we would charge if they has an additional benefit to us, such as providing lower cost charging for low income users. So those are the kinds of things that Emily is going to be taking the lead on in the next few months to see what kind of package we could put together to bring to council for your consideration. Emily, is there anything you'd want to add?
No, I think you've covered it. I think just one thing perhaps that I'll add is we're trying to do it in a way that it also kind of is in line, and kind of that policy is being developed in parallel to the Emerging Mobility Action Plan. So we kind of are, is through that planning process and community engagement process, also identifying locations where these, third-party private, DC fast charging or level 2 charging stations might be suitable, given the proximity to perhaps, multifamily dwelling units that can't accommodate charging, because of, the shared parking facilities, kind of various factors that we're having to think through, when a household is, when the residences aren't single family homes. There are instances where, private, personal charging station might be appropriate. So we're trying to think through all those questions as we're designing this policy come the spring.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. One final question or maybe comment is around the one-way shared vehicles and the use of a permit parking, or use of parking, metered parking for up to 72 hours. While that may seem like a good idea right now under COVID, while none of us are out and about and going to restaurants, I have a very big concern of that occurring in a place like Japantown, where parking is very difficult and you're using metered parking where someone is taking up a parking space for 72 hours. So I would encourage us to, before we roll anything out like that, and I know it will come to council for that, but we'd be very thoughtful about taking up parking spaces that our non one-way users are going to be needing access to on more of a rotating basis, and not just the parking, but how that will turn over for the restaurants and vendors and people who are benefiting from that turnover of that parking space. So with that, I really appreciate being a part of this new committee for me. It's kind of exciting and looking forward to more on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Ramses, did you want to address the issue of the permits at the meters?
Yeah, I'll just really briefly touch on it. So we will be discussing that in great detail when we bring this item to council, but just to give a little bit of forethought and some things to chew on. One, that's a maximum, and the business itself would die on the vine if that became a consistent practice, right? And so there's both a business and a public reason, which is totally the one you're, absolutely the one you're pointing out. And so we're very aware of that, and we will say that all of the other cities we've done research on have similar or even longer allowances for it. But we certainly hear that consideration and have spent a lot of time thinking through how to make sure that one, there's enough leeway to make the business work, but also enough tightness to kind of keep the parking supply and exactly what it's supposed to do, which is turn over as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One, for the EV chargers that we're putting in, what is the source of electricity for those chargers? Is this Silicon Valley Clean Energy or San Jose Clean Energy?
Charges on city property? Yes, all the San Jose Clean Energy. If you're speaking about the PG&E program, Walter,
The PG&E and the Volkswagen. Is it Volkswagen?
Yes, the electric. Those are on likely on private property. If the private operator, the property owner is opt into San Jose Clean Energy, then they would also be powered by San Jose Clean Energy.
So for the ones that are on city property, are we on Total Green? So it's completely renewable source of electricity, or what are the source? Are we just using the regular baseline, or are we using Total Green?
Zach, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I believe for now it is the regular green source product.
Okay, so we're not at 100% renewable for our electric fleet, even if we're fully electrified, we're not at 100% renewable. I just want to make that clear. When you come back to the council on the green fleet policy, will you be talking about going total green for our chargers on public property? Is that going to be part of the recommendations? Or is it only about sourcing the vehicles?
Councilmember Davis, Walter Lewin, Public Works. For the particular green fleet policy, it is more aligned with the procurement and the use of electric vehicles at the charging stations. Fuel source, as Zach and Laura mentioned, within municipal facilities, we're already on the San Jose Clean Energy Program. The different tiers, though, and the level of green, that is something that we can reference. But the main intent of the policy amendment is just for the procurement of the chargers and the fleet vehicles themselves. Okay.
I think it would be a useful inclusion in the green fleet policy. If it's not there, I'll write a memo, but that's on my mind, the source of the electricity for the charging. And speaking of the green fleet policy, I understand that there are, especially the heavier duty trucks, they're not likely to go electric. They may never go electric. I've been reading more and more about hydrogen as a source of fuel, and that being, it appears right now, of course, we still don't know because it's not at the market level that electric vehicles are, but it appears more that longer range vehicles and heavier duty vehicles are more likely to be hydrogen fueled. So is that going to be part of our green fleet policy? Can we make it more, are you planning to make the green fleet policy update more platform independent and to focus more on zero emissions vehicles versus choosing electric vehicles?
That is a great point, Councilmember Davis. So what we've been asked as a part of a recommendation from the mayor and some council members is to look at electrification first where it makes sense. For those vehicles, or maybe there may not be an option for several years or several decades, I think our fleets team focus is looking at, well, what other options and alternatives there could be where it's more made available. We are looking at pilot and prototypes as well too. There are some vehicles where they are moving towards alternative fuels, different types as you had mentioned, or maybe hybrids. And if those make sense and meet to our standards and are available, absolutely we'll consider those as well too. We've been asked to look at electrification first, but if that's not available, we will look at other alternatives.
Okay, so will the green fleet policy talk about prioritizing zero emission vehicles? For whether, I understand electrification first, but where that is not feasible, will it talk about zero emission as being a priority as opposed to any specific? Because if it's I guess if it's gas powered hybrid, I don't know that that's better than a hydrogen fuel vehicle, right? That is by definition zero emission.
Yeah, very good points. We can make those references as well too and research what may be the best alternative sustainability and environmental wise, looking at what's available or what might be emerging, and then making that comparison. Does it make sense to go with one fuel type or another, or waiting, as Councilmember Cohen had mentioned? But yes, we can make those references as well too.
Great. Yeah, I think you know, we can make the policy more general, and then we can see what emerges, but be very clear about our priority being zero emissions, right? So
absolutely, yes.
I don't think we need to pick a winner. And I know I made that point when we talked about all electric the first time with the green fleet policy, but it is emerging more and more. I see more and more frequently articles coming out about hydrogen power and GM saying zero emissions by 2035. I went back and I read the New York Times article, Ramses, when you mentioned it. I had seen it over the weekend, and they did not say all electric. They said zero emissions. And what they mostly sell, right, are trucks and SUVs. So I think they're betting on hydrogen fuel is my guess. And so I think it's important for us to have a policy that can change with the times and to capitalize on whatever technologies come out that help our environment the most. So I appreciate you taking those comments and looking at them for the update. I have a couple more questions. Oh, the Drive Forward workshops. Are there plans for more workshops? Having fewer than 20 people in each of 4 workshops seems like more of a pilot program as opposed to, okay, we did it, now we're done. What's the plan going forward? What did you learn, and how are you going to use what you've learned? And I get that it happened in 2020, so good on you for doing them.
So I think this is Jessica Zhang, Deputy Director DOT. I'll be brief, but it was essentially, I mean, you can think about it as a pilot program because it's the first time we were able to do it, and it was funded through the American Cities Climate Challenge. So we are seeking other similar funds that could be used flexibly to continue the program and grow it, especially in a year, hopefully people have more bandwidth and more capacity to think about non-immediate things like what type of car to pursue. So thank you.
Thank you. And I would say I appreciate Peninsula Family Service, stepping in and providing the financial counseling. It may make sense as well going forward to partner with the nonprofits that are already literally in San Jose in our community and have those connections with people as just, adding to the services that they already provide. Grail Family Service comes to mind immediately when Emily mentioned Peninsula Family Service. I was like, oh, well, we have Grail Family Service for services right here already, and they have connections in the community already. And so I hope that we can do Drive Forward again and make it more of an embedded program and use our community partners and leverage their existing relationships. So I would be happy to spend more time chatting about that offline, by the way. And then I didn't understand the ambassador program, exactly how that worked with the expanding EV ownership. Somebody mentioned ambassador program. I just made a note and a question mark. So can you say a little bit more about that?
Sure, it's still a developing program, with the recognition with the program, with the workshops that were done, is that some people are having a problem getting from, I know I'm interested, I can know what the programs are, but actually completing the form. And here's where Emily had those conversations, so I'd like to defer to her and helping to bridge that gap. And we're doing that in partnership with the program that San Jose Clean Energy is also formulating around EV ambassadors more broadly. But Emily?
Yeah, sure. So Laura mentioned, one of the things that we observed throughout the duration of the program is once individuals showed up at a workshop, it was quite difficult as staff to then support them, forward, beyond the workshop. We'd give them the information about the grants and incentives, and we would refer them to Peninsula Family Service and the 2 staff members that I mentioned. But there was kind of this drop off that we saw. And one of, the things I think we'd like to do going forward is, can we work with individuals who actually successfully, went through the workshops and enrolled in the grant programs, received grants and purchased electric vehicles, to act as, cultural brokers and ambassadors of electric vehicles in San Jose, to share their experiences, and also perhaps to support new individuals who are interested in purchasing electric vehicles, to navigate that process kind of on a one-on-one basis. To Councilmember Davis's point, we want to be working with members in our community and community-based organizations in our community to be helping households, individuals walk through what is right now a very complex process, time-consuming process. So it's still early days for that, but we've formulated a great partnership with San Jose Clean Energy. We really enjoy working together, and I think this is kind of a next step for the 2 departments to kind of launch that program as part of our continued EV programmatic work.
Great. I think that's an awesome idea, to use the Drive Forward workshop completers to become ambassadors. I think that makes a ton of sense. And they can also give feedback on, what wasn't in the workshop that they learned along the way, right, to help inform the workshop and improve that over time. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then one question on the one-way shared vehicles. First of all, I just want to make sure I understand what a one-way shared vehicle is in this context. We're talking about, just like we do for the scooters, where you can just like go and scan it on your computer or on your phone, and you have an app and ride the scooter and leave it there. It works the same for the like a car. I just want to make sure it wasn't described, so I want to make sure I understand that that's what it is. Like, you don't have to have, it's not like Zipcar or something like that, where it's something where if you have the app, it would just open and you would be able to drive the car and leave it, and then somebody else could take it while you were at your shop or whatever.
Correct. You've got the idea. The only distinction I would make is that because scooters don't go that far a distance, they already naturally have a service area. But with a car, you can travel much further, that these operate within some designated service area. So you could take them outside that zone, but when you end your reservation, you have to be within the zone. So that way they're constantly floating within that zone and available for other people.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. When you bring it back to council, I think it would be really helpful to have that kind of description, just because I didn't catch that from and I'm sure you said it, because now that you're saying zone again, you did mention something about zone, but I had never, this is a new concept for me and I didn't put that together. So I appreciate that. So how many, to Councilmember Foley's question about the meters, how many permits are we talking about allowing to start out with? Are we going to start out with a pilot and have a certain number of permits? Or is this kind of going to be, we're just going to set the permit fee at a per vehicle cost and then see what happens with the market? What's the plan for that?
Sure. It would be per vehicle for the most part. There are some fees that are per applicant, but mostly the fees are per vehicle. Both companies, when they were originally expressed interest in coming to the city, said that they would come with an initial area. So they wouldn't calling it a pilot, but they would start small, and to the extent that they're successful, keep growing that. And both had indicated, both the moped company and the car company indicated about 150 to 200 vehicles in an area. It's about 10 square miles.
So is that 150 to 200 vehicles each?
Each of them, we're talking about 150 car vehicles. That was the moped, and 200 was the car company in an area approximately 10 square miles. Now, we're in COVID period, and they're learning how to operate in this environment, and hopefully by the time they come, they'll be in a place where it'll be more like post-COVID. So it remains to be seen what they wind up doing and where they wind up deploying. But their initial idea was, when we're still in the beginning of COVID, was this is how they started in other cities. They would do it with that number in an area in the greater downtown that was about 10 square miles.
Okay.
I think it's important to point out that they would be paying for any of this parking that they would be using. So it's not like we're giving them a permit to just park there and the permit covers that parking fee. They would be paying in proportion to what a normal vehicle would pay in that parking space. So I think that's a really important part to kind of, just ensure like we're not losing city funds on this. We're definitely, and we're motivating the system highly to get the car moving.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'm also sensitive to Councilmember Foley's point about, especially, and I understand about the business plan as well with the companies, they're going to rely on turnover. But when we're talking about in the beginning, if we're talking about that many vehicles, and so 350 vehicles potentially parked in permit parking spaces, downtown, maybe that's fine. Japantown, that's not fine. And it's already hard sometimes to find parking in normal times. I mean, I can't remember the last time I was there, but to find parking in Japantown, even at a meter. So I don't know if we want to say 72 hours or if we want to say 48 hours or 24 hours, or maybe Japantown is different than downtown because there are fewer options for parking down there when you're down there to do your shopping, and it's just nearby parking is very limited. So just some things to think about as you guys are refining the ordinance, and you're coming straight to council with that next month. So we're not going to have a chance for input on the ordinance from this committee before we go to council on that?
Not planned that way, no.
Okay. Okay. It looks like Councilmember Prowlis, was your hand up from before?
Yeah, sorry, I think that's from before, but I'll make a motion to accept the report.
Thank you.
I actually had a comment.
Thanks.
I'll second it.
Thanks. Councilmember Cohen's ahead of you. I think he has
I missed it.
second round. That's okay.
I don't care about the order. That's fine. Just a quick comment. Since you mentioned hydrogen fuel cells, I think it's important for us to look at all the possible technologies. Obviously, when you bring the report back, our ultimate goal should be electric where possible, and hold off on any potential plan for anything other than electric. But certainly, I think it's true that the big vehicle they're talking about potentially for like even airplanes and long haul trucks that hydrogen may be the solution. My suspicion is that for many other vehicles, electric will be an option in the future. And certainly I think it's true that electric will probably be the only potential for zero emission from source to finish, because hydrogen actually can be pretty expensive when it comes to generating the hydrogen fuel itself. So, but yeah, we ought to keep our pulse on what will be the options for localized zero emissions, and have that, have all those options going forward. But certainly be only investing in electric vehicles for some period of time until we really know where the market's going.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you. I actually wanted to just piggyback quickly on your suggestion to really make the most out of local nonprofits that have those relationships. So I just wanted to amplify that. I think that's really important, and we've learned that in about 100 different ways, especially since the pandemic. The Peninsula Family Service has a background in this. I've worked with them in previous lives, and so they're really well known in how to help folks access vehicles. And so I think that they're pretty used to working with sort of a panoply of nonprofits to be that sort of financial backbone. But I just wanted to amplify that message because I do think it's important, especially when we're looking to outreach to folks, and whether it's an ambassador program or something else, to really leverage those existing relationships. And we can do that while still keeping Peninsula Family Service there as the backbone, but to really build on those partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are ready for the vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Perales,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, that motion carries, and we will move on to item D2, Recycle Plus and Recycle Right outreach update. Carrie, do you want to start us off?
I do. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our residential recycling and garbage services. Valerie's going to pull up the slides, but I'll go ahead and get us started. I'm joined today by Valerie Osmond. Valerie is our Deputy Director leading our Integrated Waste Management Division, and Jenny Loft is our Public Information Manager for the department. As some of you may recall, in last year, we insourced outreach for Recycle Plus into city services. And we did that because there was sort of a shared council and staff perspective that the community expected there to be more outreach on recycling because of the dramatic impact it can have on their rates, as well as the success of the program. So Valerie, if we go to the next slide. So as a reminder though, our garbage and recycling services are divided into 3 districts throughout the city. District A and C for recycling are serviced by California Waste Solutions, and A and C for garbage is serviced by Garden City Sanitation. And Green Team serves District B as well as all multifamily and city facilities. And then Green Waste serves the entire city for our loose in the street and other yard waste. So we are super proud of this program. Our recycling has done well over the last few decades, but COVID, as it has done for many city services, has had a dramatic impact on this particular service. So we thought it would make sense to bring some of that data to you to understand kind of what's happening at the curb. And then as we dive into the particulars, just remember, this is the one service that the city provides that we meet every resident at their house every week. So we're at every residential single family every week, and then multifamily sometimes more than once a week. So lots of people to impact in terms of behavior change, but certainly lots of ways to engage our community on the environmental front. So with that, I'll turn it over to Valerie.
Great, thank you, Carrie. As Carrie mentioned, you can see our district map here and the different services that are provided to over 220,000 single family homes and 110,000 multifamily dwellings. And San Jose has one of the largest privatized residential solid waste programs and is a leader in the industry in diverting waste from landfills, having a positive impact on greenhouse gases and the climate. We have a lot of innovative programs and pilots placing us ahead of the curve on many fronts. And this is really achievable through our strong partnerships with our contractors. These 4 contractors, we are working on extending their contracts an additional 15 years starting in July, out to 2036. Unique to San Jose's programs are our unlimited yard trimmings and recycling collection and our very successful unlimited large item collection, and that's available at no additional charge to our residents. Since 2008, residential garbage is sorted by green waste, and green waste extracts clean recyclables and also organics and food waste, which is composted. Our utility rates are collected through property tax billing, eliminating the need for traditional bi-monthly utility billing services. Sorry, I'm not, my slides aren't advancing. There we go. All right. The residential recycling and garbage program has experienced several impacts from COVID. Solid waste and recycling workers were deemed essential, which has been a great thing. Stay-at-home orders have increased residential waste and decreased commercial waste. It's increased single-use disposables like takeout containers, personal protective equipment, and plastic bags. And as Carrie mentioned, despite these challenges, these services have continued uninterrupted. And compared to other US programs, there's other cities that have been scaling back or have had to halt some of their solid waste services. Our service providers have continuously adapted to the recycling market, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides. And we have our public outreach, which has pivoted to more online tactics, which Jenny will be talking about later in our presentation. Prior to 2020, single-family garbage increased steadily each year, on average by about 2% each year. Over the last 5 years, San Jose's population has grown by about 1%, and our recycling tons collected has been a little bit more volatile, so residents' behavior sort of changes over time, but on average, we've been seeing the recycling tons decrease a little bit. From this chart, you can see that there's been a significant increase in both residential garbage and recycling materials in 2020. Okay, these graphs compare daily tons collected before and after shelter-in-place orders. So this information is based on the same time periods, April through December in 2019 and 2020. Junk pickup, which I mentioned earlier, our large item collection, is on the bottom right. We'd already been seeing a lot of success in this program. It was increasing about 40% per year over the last 4 years since it became a free and unlimited collection program in fiscal year 17-18. In this last year, it's increased by 107% in daily tons compared to last year, or compared to 2019. On the top right, you can see the garbage tons increased by 8% as compared to the same time the year prior. This is a large increase compared to the gradual 2% increase that we've been seeing over the last 5 years. This is due largely to residents disposing of more waste at home instead of at their offices or at school. And on the bottom left, you can see the recycling tons increased by 17% as compared to last year. So when you consider that there had been a slight decrease over the last several years, 17% is a tremendous increase of materials in our recycling carts. What we're measuring here is the tons that are collected at the curb before it's sorted. So this is attributed to many things. It can include residents ordering a lot of things online, generating a lot more packaging, and unfortunately, we are also seeing a lot more contamination. So that's material that's in the recycling carts that is not recyclable. That means that some of our residents are not recycling right, and they're placing their excess garbage in their recycling carts. The photo in the upper right shows our different sizes of garbage carts that are available. Currently, our rates are based on the size of the resident's garbage cart, and the cost is dramatically different with each size. Approximately 80% of single-family residents have a 32-gallon cart. Although many residents are sheltering in place and disposing of a lot more garbage, there has been no increase in requests to upsize garbage carts in 2020. The bottom photo shows a pile of materials from recycling carts, and this material is sorted at a materials recovery facility, which we call a MRF, and that's through a system of both manual and automated processes. The residue is what's the material that's left over after processing. So that's garbage, maybe some recyclable items that are too contaminated to recycle. Unfortunately, we've seen a large increase of 33% in recycling residue or contamination from 2019 to 2020. This information indicates that while we've seen a dramatic increase of material, we've not seen residents responding by upsizing their garbage carts. And again, as I mentioned earlier, putting more garbage in their recycling carts. We've recently worked with a consultant to conduct a curbside recycling study, which will measure contamination as part of our Recycle Plus contracts. The final results will be shared at a council study session this spring. Recyclables are sorted at a MRF, as you can see in this bottom photo, and clean recyclables are baled and sold, as seen in the upper left photo. The recycling markets are still changing and are unstable. China's national sword, which started in 2017, dramatically impacted the export of recyclables, mainly plastics, from the US. China has enforced much stricter policies, accepting only very clean materials and rejecting loads from the US. China stopped accepting US paper scrap, plastic scrap and mixed paper, and they're planning to ban recovered paper in 2021. This has caused other countries to emerge in the recycling market, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and India. In late 2020, we've seen increases in prices for cardboard, mixed paper, aluminum, and natural high-density polyethylene, and we're seeing an industry-wide push for stronger domestic markets. We're very fortunate that our contractors are experts in their field, and their specialty is in finding markets for our recyclable materials. They're constantly watching markets and adjusting, and while it's been difficult, our contractors have been doing a great job in hitting all of their targets. That means now more than ever, it's important that our recycling stream is clean and dry and that we recycle right. Jenny Loft is going to be talking more about our Recycle Right campaign.
Thanks, Valerie. As you can see here in this slide, this is a slide about the users who are coming to sanjoserecycles.org. That's the data-driven recycling information website that we've launched back in 2019 when we took on outreach from our haulers. And so on this site, there's over 300 searchable items that users can log on and see what's recyclable or not. And according to our new vendor, we're seeing a growth in the web traffic that about 33% more than other cities. And in this year alone, in calendar year 2020, we've also seen doubled the web traffic. So for instance, early in 2020, we were seeing about 500 daily users at the start of the year, and at the end of the year, about 1,000. So you can see the need for a website like this. Next slide, Valerie. As we all have been in the pandemic right now, we've switched over from hard copies on buses and bus shelters when it comes to our campaign and billboards, and we pivoted to digital ads. And sorry, there must be an error there with the slide from the previous on the inside, so please disregard that. But during COVID, we've swapped over to more digital ads, so mainly on Hulu and ESPN and other platforms, just so that we can still continue to get our key messages out about recycling right. Next slide. Here's some examples of the Recycle Right ads. You can see the one on the left, one with the Sharks and one with the Quakes. We've had a long time partnership with them, and we continue to have that great relationship during COVID. And then you see an ad here on the right about using audio feature on your smartphone And then we, of course, you see at the bottom some ads in Spanish and Vietnamese. And of course, I want to thank you all for some of the council members who were able to participate in recording your own Recycle Right videos and sharing it through your respective networks. Next slide. We've been hearing a lot about inclusion in a lot of our presentations to council, and certainly you can see it here. In addition to advertisements and postcards in Vietnamese and Spanish, we're also making sure that our low-income neighborhoods are receiving this critical message. So on the left here is an example of a postcard that we sent to over 60,000 households last August, and that's in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. The inclusion tactics that we've calculated within our communications team are derived from the census and the federal housing and urban development criteria for a family of 4 in Santa Clara County. In the middle there, where it says number 2, is a screenshot of our 3 tips to recycle right video in Vietnamese. And we've developed that so that we can place it on digital platforms such as YouTube and Facebook. It's also available in Spanish. We've partnered with Loaves and Fishes. At the bottom there, you see a sticker. We're working with Loaves and Fishes, which is a nonprofit food pantry organization. They've helped us placed over 80,000 stickers on their to-go meal containers that they distribute. They serve some San Jose residents, and also some of them speak Vietnamese and Spanish, as well as those living in low-income areas. On the right, you see an ad with one of our earthquake player ambassadors. This is a Spanish language ad, and it's a 30-second audio piece on Euphoria Radio, which is a Spanish music streaming app, as well as an animated version of this video was shown in laundromats citywide. Next slide. And you see here, we're continuing to pivot as everybody is. And so we want to make sure that we're still creating a community presence. You see here some of our fabulous communication staff working to get the bags that we've been working with San Jose Library for their Curbside Express books program. You can see the results of that on the bottom left with somebody picking up some books. And we are also at Farmers Market providing this tote bag that talks about going to our website to get more information about recycling right. And then I had previously mentioned the Loaves and Fishes partnership, and you see that at the top right. Next slide. I also want to share with you the feedback that we're getting from our community. Back in 2019, as we mentioned, when we took on the outreach efforts, we created a baseline of information with a survey initially to gauge awareness and public awareness and behavior change. And in 2020, we conducted a similar survey in the summer of 2020. These surveys were available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. So the annual survey that we provided included questions about understanding of recycling and also behavior change. One of the questions that we asked was how often a household participated in recycling at home. And this year, and compared to 2019, 10% said that, that they did that all the time. And then another question was how they would dispose of specific items, such as plastic bags, pizza boxes, and yogurt cups. And this year, there was a 6.7% increase of correct responses. So those are really good numbers. Also this year, the focus group, we conducted 4 sessions of focus groups. I'm sorry, 5, 4 in English and 1 in Spanish. And we also wanted to make sure that we reach out to Vietnamese community, and unfortunately we didn't have any participants from that group. We asked them several questions about their behavior as well as feedback on ad designs, and they appreciated participating in this type of in this focus group, and they also just, you know, like the fact that we asked them questions. Next slide. So we're going to launch a pilot in this month to test the effectiveness of a new lid replacement program. And as you can see here, it's to replace your recycling cart lid, and there will be graphics on these new lids, and what it will have will be the yes and the no items to be placed in the recycling bin in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. We're also going to survey 5,000 households who will receive this new lid, and hopefully this type of information right in front of the resident may help decrease the dirty materials placed in the recycling bin. That concludes my outreach portion of the presentation.
Thank you. Oh, Valerie, I'm sorry, I forgot about the policy part.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention this very briefly. We do have a lot of policies and regulations that are well, not just coming our way, they're here. SB 1383, which is a really big sort of multifaceted bill that was finalized in November 2020, and it reduces methane emissions through organic waste recycling and surplus food recovery. Implementation on 1383 begins in January of 2022, and staff is working with service providers and stakeholders to start strategizing compliance, and we'll update City Council on the impacts and planned responses at a spring 2021 study session. AB 1583 and 2287 reauthorizes existing and creates new recycling infrastructure development programs, such as sales tax exemptions, low interest loans, new incentive payment programs, and a commission of public and private sector recyclers has been established to develop strategies for education, promote design for recyclability, and provide policy recommendations. AB 793 was signed into law in September 2020 and establishes recycled content standards for plastic beverage containers subject to the California Refund Value, CRV, starting at 15% in 2022 and increasing up until 2030, 50%. That goes to continue supporting our domestic recycling market. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So committee members, one of the reasons we just wanted to talk about this topic was, one, obviously to share with you how we're reaching out to the community, but also the levels of contamination. So materials that are not recyclable, not program materials that are in the recycling cart, the levels of contamination directly impact the rates. So we weren't anticipating COVID. Clearly, that has had a negative impact on the quality of our recycled materials. And so as Valerie indicated, we'll lead a study session in the coming months to talk in more detail about the findings of the curbside audit, but we do expect there to be an impact to rates in this coming July 1. And as you may recall, Recycle Plus, so our residential recycling and garbage program, is regulated by Prop 218. So we don't have low-income assistance programs, and the program does need to be cost recovery. So with that great news, we're available for questions.
Thank you. Let's go to the public first. Looks like Roland is first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm so glad that there was a passing mention of CRV right at the end of the presentation. And I'm through the chair, I'm wondering whether there are any plans to resume redemption after the pandemic. And the reason I'm asking is because right now I'm holding approximately $600 in recyclables, and I don't have any way of getting rid of this other than basically dumping my money in the trash. Now, to add, insult to injury, that money right now is piling up in the State General Fund in Sacramento. And last time I checked, we never allowed the state to start taxing us for a redemption. They're supposed to be basically buying the stuff back from us. 100% of my containers come from Costco, and 90% are plastic. So as far as I can tell, they are potentially posing a fire hazard. So question to the chair, would it be possible to mandate retailers such as Costco to provide a recycling service to their members, potentially restricted to items which are actually a purchase from a Costco, and this could potentially incentivize these retailers to switch to other containers such as cardboard. Another solution could be redemption at the curb, potentially by appointment. So in front of my house, here it is, please give me my money. I'm not sure whether that would be viable. The last comment I'd like to make is I did pay attention to the notice I was complaining about contaminated containers. And I've been duly, very carefully washing, all my plastic containers before putting them in the recycling bin. But the issue, as I see it, seems to be very inefficient in terms of water usage. And I'm wondering if it would be possible to install some kind of facility at the plant that would take all these, items, put them in a gigantic washer, and potentially use recyclable water to wash them up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Paul Soto.
Yeah, good afternoon. Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. I would like to talk about the equity lens again with respect to this issue, because what recycling is the issue that brought down Mayor Gonzalez because of the corruption potential within this particular department of the city. And so I'd just like to lay that out first, because he brought a lot of disrespect to the Chicano community as a result of that corruption. And so with that said, the data that you're using is not from the regular average citizen here in San Jose. Your numbers are skewed because the acceleration of people that are dumping are people that have disposable income. Those are the people that are accelerating the waste in the dump sites, is because they can sit home comfortably and order from Amazon all day long and indulge in their consumerism. Okay, there's other people, Chicanos and the Latinos in this city, that don't contribute to those numbers. So they need to be taxed at a different rate. Because you have it all mapped out. You have the B section. Okay, they need to be taxed because they are the primary contributors to this waste. And the collective city as a whole is the one that's flipping the bill for that. No, we need to tax you because we have the data to support it. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that the outreach that you're doing, these people, look, man, people are barely putting food on the table. We have relatives that are dying. I have a very, very dear friend right now that is sick with COVID. She's wheezing. I'm calling her and she's wheezing. So forgive us if we're not online, contributing to your surveys with regard to garbage dumping. We're too busy trying to survive. I would suggest that the council start using Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs to determine who is really actually participating within these surveys, because the data that you have is inaccurate. Thank you.
Thank you. Turning to my colleagues on council, Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you. Thanks for the detailed presentation. First of all, I want to commend the city and all of the folks who work for all those garbage recycling companies for the uninterrupted service during the last year. It's quite impressive that we've had such good service in San Jose during such difficult times. I did want to ask, do we have any information or data about the health of the people who've been continuing to work in those facilities and those garbage collection trucks? Have there been any information about how they've held up during the pandemic?
Thank you, Councilmember. Yes, we've been working very closely with our partners in this effort. And while there have been members at almost every hauler that have had experienced COVID or COVID-like symptoms, none of the county investigation determined that it was workplace exposure. So our haulers and sorters have done a fantastic job really following the county's guidance and working closely with the Department of Public Health. But, you know, there were service impacts, and our haulers coordinated and collaborated behind the scenes to support one another so that our community would not be impacted. As Valerie mentioned, there were cities across the state and across the country that did have to take a break in services, and we were fortunate that even the junk pickup program remained uninterrupted.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's an impressive operation, especially in a city as large, both in population and in area as ours, that it worked as well as it did. I have some questions about contamination. I've always had this question. You know, in the earlier days, we used to have different bins for different types of recycling, and you know, we were told that when we went to this method of commingling our recyclables, that was because we now had the technology to be able to separate and continue to recycle efficiently. And I feel like we were sold a kind of a bill of goods at the time that may not have been true. And now it sounds like when that the result is that residents are being told that it's our fault for the fact that things are being contaminated when we were told that it's okay to throw everything into one bin. So I'm curious about, I mean, I know it's hard to unwind processes, but I'm curious about what the thoughts are about the best practices now about how to most efficiently recycle and get to zero waste, given that we're seeing that more and more of our waste is unrecyclable in the current method of doing things.
Well, thank you. I can say that some of what the industry believed was true in the 90s is not really working out, much like we said computers would make us paperless. That didn't work out really either. But so, you know, there's a couple of things that have happened. One is there's a lot more stuff. So when I think back to the 90s, you know, you didn't go there. Well, I don't know if there was a Costco, but you didn't come home with lots of individually wrapped, you know, goldfish or Pringles or, you know, bottled waters, et cetera. And so there's just a lot more stuff, and there's a lot more plastic materials out there, whether that's utensils or extra wrapping around things and then extra shipping boxes. So we're seeing a lot more materials. Even if you look at, you know, yogurt that has the extra piece of film on top so that it stays sealed, none of that really existed, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so we're seeing a lot more material, and there's not all of that material that has the potential to be recycled is actually being used for future products. So while it may have the triangle that says it has the opportunity to be recycled, it's not marketable because no one wants to use that to make a material. So some of the things we need to do are help drive those markets domestically so that we're not shipping things all over the world to be reused and then shipped back to us. And then in terms of sorting at the curb, the 3 separate bins was a great start because it was obvious there were cans, bottles, and paper, but that was it, right? There wasn't thin film plastic and everything else. But also you brought it to the curb and your neighbors could see it. So people didn't hide things in it. They didn't put and couldn't put extra bags of garbage in it. The one container is more efficient if what would have been in those 3 bins is all that's in the enclosed bin, because the driver doesn't have to get out. So the driver doesn't have to get out and dump the material. And so there were some efficiencies in that, which those efficiencies result in rate impacts. But what we see now, as Valerie articulated, is people take extra trash, or they do what we call sort of hopeful or wishful recycling. Oh, I'm not sure, I'll let the city figure it out. and they sort of throw it in. And so, so that's not helpful either. And so part of our outreach campaign is really focused now on what not to put in there, because that seems to be the biggest challenge right now is, you know, we just really want cans, bottles, and cardboard. And then we want to limit some of the other things, and anything with the CRV on it, with the redemption value. So so lots of work ahead, but developing domestic markets and increasing what can be used makes sense. Ultimately, though, I think it's going to come down to restricting what producers can send us, and making positive changes in that area.
Obviously, there has to be a reduction in packaging and all that, but let me just say this. I sit through this, I take tours of all the facilities, I study this, and even I don't understand it. So we talk about educating the resident, the user. I just don't think it's possible anymore to educate the user. The number of questions I get from residents, the number of questions I get from neighbors, they seem unanswerable to me at some point. And I go and I tour green waste, and even the garbage that they're bringing in, that's not the recycling truck, but the garbage is being sorted so that anything recyclable is being pulled out of it, right? And all the recycling material is being sorted so that the garbage is being pulled out of it. So you start to say, well, does it really matter where I throw anything? It's all being sorted and mixed together. And then the whole question of contamination confuses me, right? Because the way, when I see it there, it's all looking like it's getting contaminated anyway. And so it's hard for me to wrap my head around the understanding how to keep things clean on my end and whether it really matters. And I'm told then, for example, you know, keep paper dry. Well, you know, my family we get whatever junk mail comes in the mail, gets thrown in the bin, and then we're told you can recycle this plastic, but only if you rinse it off first. So you rinse off the plastic and you put that piece of plastic in with the paper, and then the water that you rinsed it off with gets on the paper, and now you've ruined the. Anyway, you understand what I'm saying, but I'm concerned that we're over specifying to our residents, which ends up causing them to almost give up on the process, and that's leading to some of the contamination issues.
Yes, and thank you for that. You know, our we don't really want the program to be confusing, and we are working on that. And Jenny, if you could think about sharing with the council members sort of how do you access the online resources, and what you've looked for with sort of Hey Siri or Alexa, and I hope nobody in my house starts talking now, and that. And you know, that's where we're really focused right now on no food in the recycling bin. You know, one of the primary reason we have our garbage or the black can sorted is it gets out the organics. So instead of having a composting program, we just kind of do it for you, which is more the San Jose way, and there's 100% participation. But you know, Jenny, if you maybe just share if I'm you know, I'm cleaning up after lunch, how can I quickly find, hey, I have this container, what do I do with it? Recycle or garbage?
Right. So if you go to sanjoserecycles.org, there's over 300 items that's on that site. So you can type it in. You can also use your smartphone and use Siri if you have an Apple phone, and just ask for sanjoserecycles.org, and the website will come up and you can easily use that.
And so what we're doing with the cart lid pilot is seeing, does that have an impact, right? Because that's sort of an ongoing reminder. You take your recyclables from the house out to wherever you store your bins, and there's that reminder on it. So we'll do some pre-lid pilot surveying and then post-lid pilot surveying compared to other neighborhoods that didn't have the lids to see is that helpful or not. But we do need to figure out a better solution, and admittedly we're not 100% there, but we're making good progress. We're still doing better than most cities, but COVID did sort of confuse some of the data, which is why we think a study session makes sense to talk more intimately about what's happening in our own city.
Okay, and two more things. One, you mentioned that but a lot of people are, because they're filling up their garbage cans, are putting garbage in the recycling can just as a way of getting rid of it. And I know that the goal is to get them to pay for a larger can. Would it be more cost effective as a city system for us just to provide everyone with a larger can, just to make sure that we don't contaminate our recycling?
And we're working on that. So we're in the midst of a rate study that unfortunately COVID delayed, and that is one of our goals. Is I don't really care what size cart you have, either side of it. Just put the right thing in the right place, and then we'll do the math on that and see is that something that's workable, because the transaction cost of cart exchanges can make it more expensive overall. So looking at driving down the administrative costs so that it's a little bit simpler, but we know it's a problem.
Thank you. Lastly, you mentioned composting. So you're doing composting just naturally at the other end, just to pull out everything compostable and getting it composted. Do we think we're losing a lot of composting by people doing things like putting stuff down the drain and other stuff? And this way, is it worth having a conversation about other means of composting in our city? Or do you think that we have a good composting system now?
So the Environmental Services Department also is the administrator for the regional wastewater facility. And so anything that folks put down the drain, we actually capture and we use that produced methane out of our digesters to power the wastewater facility. And then any of the solids, we'll be bringing forward a plan to, right now they go to alternative daily cover at the landfill. We're bringing forward a plan that will meet the some of the additional regulatory requirements that will have that material more beneficially reused. We're sort of still working with the state on what those requirements should be and how we would integrate them. But point being that anything that goes into either system is being used in a beneficial way. But then certainly there's things that are not captured in the system, like illegal dumping.
Thank you.
Can I just add, just in response to one of the members of the public earlier who had asked about redemption centers. There are 4 redemption centers open in San Jose. So we'll make sure it's on sanjoserecycles.org. If it's not there already, we'll make it front and center.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. I know my office has been getting questions about that. Councilmember Foley.
Great, thank you. Good report, and I appreciate the confusion over what's recyclable and what's not recyclable. I pride myself on someone who thinks they know, but then we don't know. So I'm really intrigued by the lids and having the lids replaced with the information right on top of the lids of what you cannot recycle. I think that will really be helpful. It'll be helpful for me and a lot of us, because we're visual folks. We're not really going to go, if I have a question about something, is this pizza box recyclable? I'm really not going to take the time and go on to a website to figure it out. I'm going to go, yes or no, based on how dirty I think it appears at one particular moment. And I think that's your average person. Your average person is, they just want to get rid of their trash. And they want to put it in the right spot. They want to do the right thing. Most people want to do the right thing. They just don't want to be confused about it. So as any way that we can make it as easy for them as possible is important. So I do have a question about the lids. You mentioned 5,000. How are you going to swap out the lids? Are you going to swap out the whole can? And I mean, that seems like a exercise in its own.
Well, and that would be, in our view, not the best use of our natural resources. But apparently it's pretty easy to replace a lid, which is why we picked lids, because you can just pop it off and put the new one right on. So it's a pretty easy exchange. And so that was one of the cost-effective solutions that our staff came up with to sort of get to the point we wanted to get to without having such an extensive cost. To replace the cans would have been limiting.
So you have the recycler doing that when they're picking up the recycle bin, they're emptying it and then they're putting another lid on at the same time. Is that how you see that rolling out?
It'll either be that city staff or partnering with a nonprofit. We have to sort of pencil out when they come in and how much time we have to do 5,000. But it won't. And Valerie, how many days do we think trading out 5,000 lids will take?
I have no idea. But yeah, it's the recycling contractor will be essentially out on their collection day, and while the carts are out, they'll be swapping out those lids. It'll probably take a couple of weeks.
Okay, so on those days, though, if I am lucky enough to get one with the lid, I'll need to know not to pull in my can right away, because I'm one of those.
Yep.
I'm one of those, and especially because I'm sheltering in place, I can hear it. So I know it's done. I can bring it right in. I don't want it out there. You know, it bugs me. It's just one of those, you know, the things you find are annoying to you under COVID, you didn't know before, you now know they're annoying to you. So anyway, you know, stupid to Paul Soto, it's a first world problem. I know what I'm saying is stupid for the most of the people in the world, and what they're really facing as it relates to tragedy of COVID, health, and lack of food and other things. I really understand that, and I'm truly not making light of it, but it is recycling and picking up trash is really important, and I'm really glad that our city has been able to do that uninterrupted for the year. So that answers the replacement lid. I do have a question about the Recycle Right program. How did we happen to choose Hulu and ESPN as to how we were going to market our recycle program, and why? And I know we sent out cards too, but why Hulu and ESPN? I don't know how many people subscribe to Hulu versus, you know, Amazon Prime or Netflix or whatever, or others.
Jenny, you want to share on that?
Sure. Well, it was just, you know, during like in March, you know, as we all sheltered in place, you're just kind of looking around and seeing, hey, you know, what are people doing? And a lot of people obviously were on Hulu, but we certainly could look at Amazon and any other of the platforms. We bought a buy where it was a packaged deal where you can get Hulu, ESPN, Bing, and other platforms. So we would look into others as well. And that's but as we all know, we're all, you know, we have so much more screen time than ever before. So we'll definitely look into that. Thank you for that.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Someone used the term recovered paper. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Valerie?
Yeah, it's just paper that's been collected through the recycling process.
Oh, okay. Just, all right. That's easy enough. Recycle paper then. Question for you regarding the cost of service. As I recall, last year, we had an increase that was going to be substantial that would have come on the property tax bill as it does now, but it was, I don't know, I could be wrong about this. It was like 17% increase, something like that. And we at council decided that wasn't a good idea, that we would approve an increase given COVID and our concerns about people's ability to pay and just hitting them with another financial burden during a real serious time, and actually the beginning of a very serious time. So we chose to lower the increase, but now with the cost of the contamination and the sorting, increased sorting costs, are we going to be seeing a higher increase come through again in this July?
So, Councilmember, thank you for that. Your memory serves you well. Last year, we did have an initial rate projection north of 15%, and worked with the budget office and other departments to sort of bring that down. But we brought it down by tapping into reserves and other mechanisms as well. But at that time, I don't think anybody anticipated that there would be COVID a year later. And so I think we thought it would be a shorter window in time, and we weren't forecasting the level of impacts that we have been seeing in the last year. So we will be bringing forward more rate increases this year. I don't have a final number yet. We're waiting for the results of the curbside audit. We are also working with the city manager's office to see if there's any COVID relief money So as you're seeing us frame things up as directly related to COVID, that's with the intent to try and find some additional resources, some additional funding to offset that impact to our community. But because the program is rate recovery, if we're not able to find those funds, there will be potentially significant rate impacts. So you'll see that as part, you'll see a memo come out with the budget office later this month. It's February now, later this month. And then we'll also have a study session where we can talk more deeply about the curbside audit and how it relates to rates. But having said all of that, I do think it's important for us to remember that the additional costs right now are being borne by our haulers. So they are having higher disposal costs borne on them because there's additional material that shouldn't be there in the recycling carts. And then they're just processing a lot more material. The good news, though, is that the recycling markets are doing a little bit better than they were a year ago. So, so there's some offset there, but they are currently experiencing those increased costs.
Well, there's definitely an increase in consumerism for some who are sheltering at home and ordering a lot of Amazon deliveries and a lot of other things being delivered to their homes because they don't want to go to the stores. They're concerned about their health and exposing themselves. So is there, are the recyclers, they're still taking boxes. There's still, is there any, have you heard from them that they may be cutting back on taking boxes or limiting anything like that?
So our contracts don't allow them that flexibility. So we've structured our contract such that if the material is a program material, they need to take it. And then we will work out a different solution if the markets drop out. But because markets come and go from a resident standpoint, we don't want the message to always be changing. We have a hard enough time getting the basic message out. So, and our haulers share our values that we don't want material thrown about the city. We know if someone has a stack of boxes and the hauler doesn't take it, they're not driving to the landfill or somewhere else to get rid of it. And so they share that goal with us, but we have ongoing conversations with our haulers to talk about, you know, how do we work together to keep the price down and pick up anything and everything that's at the curb.
I appreciate that. And just to back to the rates possibly going up. And I know, you know, this is a tough time economically for so many people. And we've already received notice that we may be getting an increase in our water bills coming up. So we have an increase in water, increase in recycling and trash. There just increased expenses all over for your average resident, and those increases, they just add up for folks who are really wondering how they're going to put food on their tables. Luckily, we've opened up to Purple Tier, and hopefully that will open up some restaurants and get some businesses back going and get some people out working again. But that won't have an immediate effect. It will have more of a longer term. The other thing, the final thing I'd like to leave you with is that if you could provide the council offices, every one of us has newsletters, and we're always looking for content. Anytime you can put out really easy information that would be helpful for recycling, I know we'll all include it when we can in our newsletter. I know we have in District 9 before, and we will again. We did when we had the big recycle push earlier this year. So don't forget about us, because we are always looking for information and ways to share valuable tools with our residents. So with that, I appreciate what you're doing. I hope we can make recycling a little bit less complicated, but I'm not sure that we will. Thank you.
Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I just wanted to add to the discussion about the containers. I know that this has been a discussion for a couple of years. I know when Councilmember Foley and I started, we had to jump in and do a lot of research on right away, and heard a lot from the haulers about folks just kind of cramming everything into small containers. And I'll go back to my comments on the previous item. East San Jose has a lot of overcrowded census tracts. Again, a lot of single family homes that weren't designed necessarily to have 15 people in them. And so, so my comment is one, I do think that those larger containers are needed, and I look forward to getting the information about the study. But my question is, are we reaching out to property owners? Some of the leases are very unconventional. Let's just leave it at that. And so are we reaching out to property owners as well as residents? And will we make it easy for residents to request a larger container? Because there's often, the owner may be somebody else, like far away. There may or may not be like formal agreements. And if we really want people to recycle, we need to then work with the residents who are doing the recycling, right?
Yes, thank you. So for the information on what is and is not recyclable, the basic behavior expectations, those are communicated to both property owners and tenants that reside at the street address. But in terms of cart exchanges, because there is a very significant pricing discount from difference from a 32-gallon cart to a 96, and the bill goes to the property owner. So only property owners can change the cart size because they bear the cost of it. And so as we look to shift the program, if it's the same price, then that alleviates that tension about how do I get the right size. But there is a cost impact because of that price difference, but we think over time we can work it so that people are able to pick what makes sense for them, much in the same way that right now you can have any size recycling cart you like. You just can't have any size garbage cart. And that's because at the inception of the program, that made sense. But over the last few years, we've fully appreciated that it doesn't make sense. And then the new contracts that we've negotiated with our haulers, like I said, it compensates them if people are not doing what we expect them to do, and they bear additional costs. So I think we're all feeling much better about that program side of it, that everyone's being treated fairly. But the resident side, it's hard if you're a tenant and that your 32-gallon cart is full, and the property owner doesn't want to spring for a bigger size cart. So we understand that they, maybe we would like them to get a garbage sticker at Safeway or Lucky's or wherever, but those aren't being utilized anymore during COVID either. So we know there's a challenge there.
Thank you. And then I just wanted to echo Councilmember Foley's comments on the rates, and I'll look forward to the info memo coming out in advance of the study session. I think it's a complicated issue, particularly given the financial circumstances so many people find themselves in right now. Thank you.
Yes,
that's it.
Thank you.
Do I need to move to accept the update? I'll move to accept the update.
Second.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. So the annual survey, it said there was a 10% increase in residents responding to the question about recycling all of the time. I don't want to be too much of a stickler. I'm assuming that's a 10 percentage point increase. And what's the total percent of people who recycle all the time? You guys, I'm the data nerd, right? I got to ask that question.
Jenny?
Oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to answer your question, but what I have right now is 2019, 65.9% responded to that they recycled all of the time, compared to 2020, 75.9% responded to that question.
And so I would add, obviously, context that they think they're recycling. Because clearly we know there's some incorrect recycling versus recycling right. And so it just means they believe they are, and that's great that they want to participate.
Yeah, no, that's very good. So I had another question about the LID pilot program. So how are the 5,000, so I understand about Councilmember, the reason I was giggling about Councilmember Foley's getting the bins in right away on time. We have teens and their job is to get the bin in. So ours is often out the next day and even the day after that. And sometimes even one of the neighbors comes and puts it on the curb for us. So we don't have that problem, and we're more likely, it sounds like, to get the sticker maybe because of that. So how are the 5,000 households being chosen, and how are they going to be distributed throughout the city? And then what's the tracking on? I mean, I see how is the tracking going to happen about whether the recycling behavior changes?
So there'll be, for the selected parcels, there'll be notices on the cart. So there'll be a sticker tag that says this is going to be changed out on this day, leave it out that day, because we figure if you're the one bringing it in, you're probably the one putting it out. And then there'll be other communications as well. Although I had forgotten about the teen factor, so we might want to rethink how. I don't know that my daughter would even read it, but and then they were selected based on routes. And so, Valerie, maybe can you talk about how they're distributed throughout the city so that we kind of can learn what we hope to learn?
So I mentioned earlier that we conducted, as part of our recycling contracts, a curbside audit, and that's essentially collecting by route the recycling and looking to see how much contamination is in there. So we've already got some preliminary data. As that report gets finalized, we know which routes have which level of contamination throughout the city, and some are doing pretty well and others are on the kind of higher end of the spectrum. And so we selected a variety of routes, so some kind of in the more moderate contamination and then some higher contamination routes. So we have the preliminary data. After the lids get installed, we'll give people a couple months to kind of settle in with the new lids, and then we'll do that curbside study again just on those routes and see what sort of data comes back.
Okay, so you're using the current curbside study as the baseline.
Yes.
And you're going to do a follow-up. Okay, that's really helpful. And it just, again, I'm as with Councilmember Foley, I'm like putting myself in the potential, is it the shoes of someone who might potentially get this, which I think would be really cool. Honestly, I think that's going to be really helpful, because even in my own household, we'll have this, can we put this in the bin or not? And so I think honestly, I'm like, ooh, I hope we get one. But then my next thought was, except that I think both my recycling and my garbage carts need to be switched out because they're both broken. They're still usable, which is why we haven't called for a replacement yet. But how do we, what if the one that's tagged for the new lid actually has a broken handle?
So we're not asking the haulers to do cart inspections. I think we can certainly add on if it's egregious, like it has no wheels and it's falling apart completely. But we don't. All of that adds cost to the contract too, and so we don't want to slow them down. But they're pretty responsible and committed individuals, and so my sense of it is if they see a really dilapidated cart, they're going to go ahead and put that in the system, and then the replacement cart, they just swap out the lid again. But Valerie, maybe have that conversation just to set expectations. But council member, it's a pretty easy phone call to your hauler if you need a new cart.
Well, I sort of feel like I don't want to waste all the plastic of the cart. It's still usable. I can still get it to the curb. So that's why I've been putting it off. But I've been doing the takeout more often as the kids are not leaving for school. So it tends not to get put out unless one of us adults does it now, which is why I've noticed, right? So thank you for that. That's very helpful. And then as we were talking, and you talked about cans, bottles, and cardboard, like if we only put that in the bin, that would be best. But I'm wondering, is there sort of a when in doubt, throw it out as opposed to recycle? Like, is there some kind of I don't know, campaign that you do or you've done in the past about that? Because that actually didn't occur to me until just today. You're talking about it, and I'm thinking, sometimes when in doubt, I'm like, oh, it's got the triangle on it. I'm just going to put it in the recycle bin, and it sounds like that's not the right choice to make.
So it can be the best sort of message we have is no foods, no liquid, because food and liquid contaminate the good material. And so if you had a clean piece of plastic and it wasn't a program material, it wouldn't adversely impact anything else. But it's the things that are clear garbage that are tainting the balance of the material. But that's where we really focus on. But we know that, you know, there's good domestic use for cans and bottles, and there'll be an emerging market for paper and cardboard.
Okay, that's helpful. So really what we should be doing is reducing our waste as opposed to anything else. That would be,
yes,
maybe harder on the front end, but easier on the back end.
Yes, and so those are some of the programming that we're looking when schools get sort of back in session, and people have the ability to sort of absorb that new information, is really having folks talk about how much they're wasting. So all that food that you bought at the store and then just threw out, you could have saved that money. And so focusing on what a resident might see as a benefit to themselves, not just to an environmental program.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I don't see any more hands up, so I think we're ready for the vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are moving on to open forum. Paul Soto. Can we unmute Paul Soto?
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis.
We had him. Are you still there, Paul?
Oh, okay, there it goes. There it goes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that, Councilwoman Davis. To Councilwoman Foley, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know me well, and I appreciate just that acknowledgement, the acknowledgement alone. But I've learned that I really have to measure and like choose my battles and pick my battles. And these are important issues that the city is contending with, and we do still, despite COVID, we have to conduct business. So I just want to extend that back to you for that acknowledgement. I can't thank you enough, Councilman Morales, for your attendance at the meeting and for your input. I was waiting the whole time to like, man, I need to hear from him, man. I need to. I was looking at your hand, and man, it's not going up or whatever. Boom, it went up. So gracias for that, man. I appreciate that, man. I cried today. I was just, I'm speechless with regard to like the vindication that my ancestors received today is going to reverberate through the generations. This is San Jose history. It's actually American history. This moment in time is going to be talked about. And it's just a part of our collective history. My prayers extend to my Anglo brothers and sisters, because they suffer. They suffer. The slave and the slave master both have a relationship. And the concept of the subjugated and the concept of the superiority and the superior and the inferior that created this racist genocide that we still contend with the remnants today. And so as a citizen of the city, I can't express enough how proud I am, how proud and just I love my city today, because I know that it's possible. We're not just dismantling a statue. We are attempting to dismantle the ideologies that erected it in the first place. And that is important. It is critically important. And so I can't thank.
Thank you. Next is Roland.
Thank you. And the first thing I want to do is to give kudos to Tony for using a screen to display the calendar. I wish every other agency in the Bay Area would do this, including the VT and MTC. The first thing I want to do is to apologize for missing last month, presentation on the Blossom Hill bike and pet overpass. And through the chair, I would like staff next time they come around with this to actually zoom out a little bit and show the location of the Blossom Hill Caltrain station, the Indianville Business Park Center job, and the 6,000 units we just built in the Cottle Road Urban Village, and then explain to council how their project actually ties all that together. Moving on to batteries, I respectfully disagree with some of the comments that were made earlier. The technology for semis, not just semis, but actually real electric trains is already there. I'm going to give you an example. You're not going to see them in the Bay Area because BNSF does not operate here. We only have Union Pacific. In the Central Valley, when BNSF are towing a train, which is probably half a mile long with double stack containers that requires 3 locomotives, they started replacing the middle locomotive with a battery electric locomotive. And see how it goes, and guess where that's going. The technology for the trucks is already here. The issue is to be able to mass produce sufficient batteries to power these trucks. Right now, Tesla just don't have the capacity. They've only got enough capacity to go cars. They're actually testing these trucks right now by transporting their cars to LA, including going up and down the Grapevine. So the technology is here. The only reason why we continue to have this fuel cell discussion in San Jose is because of Carl Gardino. I respectfully point to you that Tesla never needed anybody like Carl Gardino to get the technology forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The final speaker is Galaxy A01.
Hi, that's me, Blair Beekman. Hi. I have a new Zoom app, and so it just said that. So thank you very much for the meeting today. Thanks a lot for the words of Paul Soto. I decided to sit back and just kind of listen to the meeting today. And Paul Soto's words are really inspiring, as usual. I tried to talk about, I was really impressed with the electric bus issues and the electric vehicle items. I sent yourselves a letter today. I tried to mention that since 2015, it's been my feeling that you've made some incredible strides to invite the other parts of lower income communities to, like recharging station ideas. That's now, that's now becoming a more regular idea now. And so that's quite a leap forward in 5 years. So, there is progress being made how to talk about equity issues in lower income neighborhoods. And then Paul Soto, talked about his anger that needs to still be happening. And then Councilperson Perales talked about, how cars are like $30,000 and really expensive. So this issue is not done with, and I hope you enjoy my letter. Thank you for all the information today. I'm a bit worried about COVID still and what we're going to do in the next few months. I think we really got to be on our guard, it sounds like still, and just be wary and ready. And it isn't till maybe the end of April, that we can start to relax a bit and let our guard down. But these forecasts keep changing, so sorry for all the trouble, and thank you for all of your efforts, and thanks to everyone for the meeting today.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.